So today we talk about assessments and how to correct these assessments. When I speak about assessments, I mean the weekly test you do with it to your teachers about mathematics, about literacy, science, and so on. So to me, there are two kinds of questions. You have closed questions like what is the result of this computation? There is only one correct answer. And there are open questions, like such as write an essay about this subject. For example, I cannot just compare the text from the students to a given answer from a book to see if it's correct. It's a more complex correction. So let's start with closed questions. Closed questions could be a multiple choice question, for example, a multiple choice questionnaire. Only one solution is correct, and anyone having the solution can tell if you are correct, even if that person does not know about the topic. Okay. Um, that's very important. That's very important, even if that person does not know about the topic. So, for example, a multiple choice questionnaire, correcting that does not require much skills. In fact, it's a waste of time for the teacher to do that. It might not be a waste of time for some students, for example, because it requires some attention, to pay attention, to not just be wrong because you are confused. For young or students having focus disorder, for example, it might be a very good exercise to pay very carefully attention when correcting this kind of closed questions. So it would not be a waste of time for them. It would be a good training for these students to be the corrector of this kind of multiple choice questionnaire, while it will be a waste of time for the teacher. So I think it's important for the teacher to delegate this kind of questions. For example, computations, for example, multiple choice questions, for example, spelling, a text with holes, with blanks that you need to fill in with only one possible correct solution for each blank. You could also have memory. For example, a diagram of, in science, of a hut, for example. Up like this. There is one below. Okay, I know that by heart. Okay, and the name, the labels of every part of this diagram. Maybe you know that by heart, and checking if your answer is correct, is a match to the original diagram, is not very difficult. So to me, memory questions are closed questions. It could be also like a math demonstration. That's also a kind of closed questions. All right, so again, I will say it the last time, it's not a waste of time for some students to correct that. In fact, it's very valuable for their learning, while it's almost always a waste of time for the teacher. Now, if you look at the expertise pyramid for the teacher and for the students, on the top, expert, what is the best use of the time of a teacher? So you have a teacher available to train you, to coach you, to instruct. What would be the best use of his time? Obviously not correcting closed questions. That's more a bureaucratic task. Here. No, the best use of the time you can do, the best use of the time of the teacher you can do is making him helping you to learn. So the real expertise of the teacher, of the math teacher, is how can I learn math more easily and faster, and while enjoying myself, if possible, of course. So you'd like your teacher to spend more time here and less time here at the bottom of the pyramid. So if a student could do some bureaucratic task, it will free the teacher to spend more time up there and really be helpful for the class, for the students. And this bureaucratic task, which is not interesting for the teacher, might be nourishing for the students, for that specific student. Now, you have closed questions and you have also open questions. Open questions are much less bureaucratic to correct. They require more expertise. So let's see some examples of open question. And maybe let's start with the example I've given in the introduction. You have to write an essay or just a text. Okay. And you probably, as a teacher, have given requirements for this text. It could be, for example, the number of words. It could be, for example, the subject. It could be also some requirements on the form, like such as synonyms, do you use the same word very often? For example, you ask to tell a story about your holiday and you say, we had some trouble with the car on the road. My family was in the car and the car was on the side of the road and other cars passing. And so you repeat the word car all the time and it's ugly in the text. So this could be a requirement from your teacher to try to use synonyms instead of the same words every time. Or all your sentence starts with I. I was in the car, then I asked my father to stop the car, and then I've been out of the car. It's also very ugly as a style point of view. So style with I, for example. And it could be also a requirement from the teacher to stop doing that. So eventually we end up with some kind of correction grid. And probably spelling. Probably is your paper dirty or clean? Or points on this grid. Once you have this grid and it's mastered by students, it's well understood, it's given up front to students before they start writing this, another student could pre-check. Is the number of words required there, yes or no? For example, you ask between 100 and 150 words. Is the subject about holidays or only about cars and mechanics? Do we have a nice use of synonyms in the text? No, we use the car often. Don't I use I, start my sentences with I once every 2 sentences? Problem, and so on. Spelling is correct, but the paper is dirty and so on. So it could be pre-corrected or pre-assessed by another student. Another student could have told that, isn't it? Students are not stupid, they could follow that grid, especially if they are used to the same grid when they do their own writing. So you could train students to be at that level, to be assistants of more value, doing more complex tasks. So yes, you could also delegate the basic parts of open questions. Obviously, when you see that grid, you are going to ask the student to do version 2 of the text. And then maybe version 2, you don't have the word car so often, and this will be okay. And then maybe the style will be better, and then still it's not clean, so maybe the student will do version 3 of the text. And then it starts to be alright, and then the teacher will look finally at this work from the student. And yes, and do some more higher level assessment, like do I like your text or not, and why, for example. Okay. So in a later phase, it might be interesting for the teacher to train students doing that and have students at that level. If I have assistants at that level, as a teacher, I can be more often at the expert level and provide more value for my time to the class. So, what else? Yes. So at the end, even for close questions, it's always the teacher who checks quickly, maybe 5 seconds, the copy and congratulates the student for the results if the test is succeeded. Also about grades and congratulations, I would recommend to be very open about the results. For example, for first test, you had 3 on 10 as a score, and then you have 3 more tests coming, so you have a kind of progress bar on 30 points, okay, it's full on 30 points, and you already have 3. And the students see that he has 3 on 30 for the next grade book, for the next 2 months, for example. That will be the final note of the current month, for example. So he has 2 more opportunities to fill, so he can predict, he can still improve. It's like a progress bar of a video game. So being very open to that, I'm very surprised how when I show the grade book of the teacher to the students, when I do coaching in class, I show the grade book and I'm very open about it. Students say, "Oh my God, I need to hurry up and to do some work because I'm not going to reach my target by the end of the month," for example. It seems quite obvious to me, but it's not done by that many teachers to be that open. It will enable the student to be more like a pilot of his learning. Thank you, that's it for today.